She didn't expect anything from that morning except coffee and a quiet exit. Late checkout felt like a small luxury after a week that had blurred into meetings, elevators, and unfamiliar streets. The room was still half-shadowed, curtains pulled just enough to let the city glow in. She stood by the window in a borrowed shirt, hair loose, feeling unhurried for the first time in days. He woke slowly, watching her without interrupting the moment. There was something intimate about not rushing to speak, about letting presence do the work words usually try to do. He asked if she slept well. She said yes, and meant more than just sleep. They shared coffee from the same cup, leaning against the counter, bodies close enough to feel warmth but not demanding anything from it. The space between them had changed overnight. Less tension, more ease. Touch came naturally now, a hand at her waist as she laughed, fingers brushing his neck as she passed by. It wasn't urgent or possessive. It was familiar in a way that surprised them both. The room no longer felt anonymous. It felt lived in, even if only briefly. They talked about nothing important. Music playing somewhere down the hall. The view from the window. How strange it was that hotels made people honest because there was nothing to maintain. No future arrangements. No backstories pressing in. Just who you were in that moment. He said he liked that version of her. She replied that she liked who she was there too. When checkout time finally came, neither rushed to pack. Clothes were folded slowly, movements uncoordinated on purpose. He kissed her again, softer than the night before, lingering without trying to extend the moment past what it could be. She rested her forehead against his for a second, memorizing the calm. They left together but separated at the lobby, exchanging one last look that held more than goodbye and less than promise. As she walked out into the daylight, she didn't feel loss. She felt clarity. Some connections weren't meant to become chapters. They were meant to be paragraphs, dense, honest, complete. And later, when she checked into another hotel in another city, she carried that ease with her. The knowledge that intimacy didn't always need permanence to matter. Sometimes, it just needed the right moment, a late checkout, and two people willing to be fully present without asking for more. The day moved on, but the feeling stayed. Not in a dramatic way, not like a longing that hurt, but like a quiet warmth that followed her through the afternoon. She noticed it when she smiled for no reason, when music sounded better than usual, when her thoughts slowed instead of racing. What they had shared didn't ask for explanation. It simply existed, settled comfortably somewhere inside her. They didn't speak again that day, and that was right. Space gave the memory room to breathe. In the evening, as she unpacked in a different hotel, she paused while folding clothes, realizing how rarely she allowed moments to end cleanly, without trying to stretch them into something else. This time, she let it be what it was. Complete. A few days later, a message arrived. Short, thoughtful. He mentioned a song he'd heard that reminded him of that morning. No expectations attached. She listened to it, smiling, and replied honestly that it reminded her too. From then on, they exchanged messages occasionally. Not daily, not intensely, just enough to acknowledge that what had happened mattered, even if it didn't need to grow into more. Their conversations took on a different tone now. Less about the night, more about perspective. About how intimacy doesn't always mean closeness forever. Sometimes it means recognizing yourself in someone else for a brief moment, then carrying that recognition forward. She found herself more open after that, more relaxed in her own skin. He noticed the same change in himself. Weeks later, when life pulled them fully back into their routines, the messages slowed naturally. There was no awkward ending, no fading disappointment, just understanding. They had met at the right time, shared something real, and allowed it to end without trying to control it. And whenever she thought back to that hotel room, the low light, the shared coffee, the unhurried goodbye, she didn't feel nostalgia. She felt gratitude. Some moments aren't meant to become stories you retell. They're meant to quietly shift how you move through the world afterward. That was what the late checkout gave her. Not a relationship, not a promise, but a reminder. Presence can be powerful, even when it's temporary. And sometimes, that's exactly enough.